Hey guys, welcome to Good for the Soul episode number 2. Today I sit down with Ivan Salaverry. So we're talking Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, martial arts. Ivan is a former UFC fighter, gym owner in Seattle, father figure to me, coach, mentor, like a brother. I've known Ivan for 14 years now, just about. I got a funny picture to show you guys. So the first time I met Ivan, right there's a skinny Ivan and a skinny me, where I was 16 years old. So quick note before we get into it. The first time I walked into Ivan's, I heard about it because of a very unassuming kid in high school. His name was Dana. And we were at a keg back in the day, and in our summer between junior, senior, and high school, these guys came here and they're trying to cause trouble. Well, Dana, again, very unassuming, nicest guy in the world. They tried to pick on him, tried to pick a fight with him. He ended up beating the crap out of these guys one-on-one, one by one, and one-on-one. Proceeded to, box them up, double leg them, do some ground and pound. And it blew my mind seeing this guy like, Dana, how did you know how to do that? You're the nicest guy in the world. Like, I've never seen this before, such a nice, unassuming individual defend himself and put a butt whooping on someone who deserved it, who was trying to bully him. So he's like, hey, I've been training this place called Ivan's in Seattle. So he took me down there the next Monday. So the summer between my junior and senior in high school, I ended up boxing and doing some MMA and ground and pound and submission grappling at the time, for those 3 months. So that was my intro to Ivan's. And then, going into senior year, being a young kid, thinking I was super tough after that. It took 3 or 4 years off, and finally when I was 20, 21, I went back. And Ivan, being the very welcoming person he is, invited me back in the gym with open arms and everything. And because I was nervous to go back, like, I wonder if people are going to remember me. But that was no issue. So going back, and I've been there ever since. So for about 10-ish years now. So that's been my home. Let's see what else I got for you guys. So yeah, that was my intro to Ivan's. Yeah, what can I say about the gym atmosphere, guys? Because I want to, as I do these for you and travel the country, tell you what the gym is like. Ivan is the most welcoming, outspoken, vocal, fun, passionate individual you're ever going to meet. You walk in there for the first time and he makes you feel like you're at home. So it's quite the experience. So, and every day I've been there since, I've seen him do that with people and bring them in day by day. And it's awesome to be around. It's a great culture. There's 2 rooms. So on one side you have the green room, which is a striking kickboxing room. And then on the other side you have the red room. So that's more padded walls. It's 3 walls padded, and you have our wrestling, jiu-jitsu, ground and pound, grappling stuff is going to happen in the red room. So it's a great area. There's showers. It's in downtown Seattle, South Lake Union area. So if you're in that area, go check it out. Let's see what else I got for you guys. Yeah, biggest thing before we get into the interview, before we transition, again, an awesome way to support me is to support yourself at the same time. So got Jocko Fuel stuff right here. Guys, they're awesome. I'm super excited to be partnering with them and working with them. So if you go to jockofuel.com and get all your stuff, your supplements, your protein shakes, your greens, all that good stuff, and use Good for the Soul at checkout, spell out the 4, right? FOR, right? Good for the soul. You'll get 10% off there. It supports yourself, helps support me along this journey. The big thing I want to talk to you guys about today is that Jocko joint warfare, right? In jiu-jitsu, you get those aching joints. It's always a pain. You're, getting out of bed all stiff. I've been taking for years now, but whenever I am not super disciplined and forget to order them, or because I wasn't on the subscription at the time, a couple days after you're not taking them, you start aching. You're like, why are there's aches and pains everywhere? I mean, my knuckles, my hands, everything, right? Well, after you've been on, you get back on for about 2 or 3 days. All that subsides. So this stuff is great. It has the curcumin, turmeric, all the other necessities for your joints in there, right? So check it out. And as well on the Origin side, gis, rash guards, American-made products from dirt to shirt, right? I love this company. My friends and family, they know. So that's Origin Maine or Origin USA. .com, Origin Maine, like the state, or originusa.com. And again, at checkout there, use the code Good for the Soul for 10% off. And then I also want to give a big shout out to the body mechanic, guys. Arash, AJ, he's again the body mechanic. If injured in any way and you're in the Seattle, Kent, Bellevue, in that region, check him out, right? I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had lots of injuries, more than most. I've had quite a few surgeries and neck issues, knees, arms, I mean, all the jiu-jitsu injuries you could ever think of, he's put me back together, right? So he's an MAT specialist. Check him out on Instagram, _ the body mechanic. One of my good friends, and we met in the jiu-jitsu world, and actually I was a client of his first, and then we became friends. But man, seeing his work and how he can get you to move, get your body back to working and properly again, it's great. It's not normal PT stuff where you're not going to go and get this like, okay, do 3 sets of 10 and you're going to get better after. No, it's none of that BS. He's going to do some manual work on you. He's going to get your body moving how it should, get those muscles turned back on so you can get back to doing what you love. So shout out to AJ, again, on Instagram, _ the body mechanic. So yeah, guys, those are the best ways you can support me along my journey. And again, jockofuel.com, good for the soul at checkout. OriginUSA.com, good for the soul at checkout. And guys, give AJ a shout because he's the man. He knows what he's doing. Without further ado, here's the interview with Ivan Salaverry. Yeah, just talking jiu-jitsu. I mean, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just very, very blessed to have had you, for all these years and since you was a kid. It's just a nice story, right? That, let it be jiu-jitsu or as an individual coming to my gym as like a rowdy kid that had a lot of energy, a lot of fighting energy, which I think I get a lot of people wanting to quote unquote fight, and which is good. We have that, but in the important part is that you found more, right? And that more has so much more, right? Of character building, of development, of the depth of martial arts, right? Of being in a community, right? Making friends that are lifelong friends. It involved a lot more, right? And having your father here, your brother training as well. And going through all kinds of hardships, your surgeries, injuries, striking, grappling, right? And you've gone through a lot, and it's a nice situation to have had you for so many years. I'm gonna miss the snot out of you.
Oh, I appreciate it for sure. And I think I mean, 10 years. This has been my home. And obviously that's why I want to sit down with you as I embark on this journey, talk about that in jiu-jitsu. And because I love it. I love training here, you know what I mean? But I guess my question to you is, when did you find your love for jiu-jitsu or training? And was it jiu-jitsu first, because you fought? So what was that process like for you?
No, it was, it wasn't, I fell in love with it. It was a realization, right? And it was a slow situation. So first of all, it was like, I'm this old. So it was a thing that basically came about out of wrestling, right? So I've always wrestled. I kept up with
wrestling.
And
you wrestled in high school?
In high school,
okay.
A little bit in the Marine Corps, right? I also did a little bit of judo. So I just touched on certain things, but kept it alive, right? And then, in '93, the first UFCs came on, and watching somebody that looks like my dad, winning and winning with grappling techniques, right? And he was a skinny Latin man, and then all of a sudden it was such an explosion of realization that these techniques have been denied for so long, right? It's always been, back then especially, was the striking, the kung fu, the karate, the things of that nature, which aren't bad per se, but it was a whole gamut of a martial arts style that we weren't aware of.
Not even known to the world yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Not to that extent, right? Were there other ones? Of course. I mean, I think Sambo and a few other situations. Judo has a portion of it, but not to the depth of what the Gracies enlightened us with, right? And so watching that, I was like, wow. I was like, what the hell is this? I love this. How can I make this happen? You know what I mean? And I just chipped away at it, and I created a scenario, that I created my life to having, which is a big portion of it, is to have your life allow this endeavor, right? So you have to have a job that allows you to have an apartment that has a washing machine that has that you can pay for food and your bills without being on threads, right? So the one thing that also helps you a lot to do jiu-jitsu and to have jiu-jitsu in your life is that you have to be responsible to have it with, right? So to have jiu-jitsu in your life, you have to be responsible for you to even have it, right? And so, and that from there, it showed me a lot. And also, I started out with a very minor jiu-jitsu instructor, Glenn Barber, and it was one of the first jiu-jitsu instructors here in Seattle.
Okay.
But unfortunately, he had onset adult schizophrenia, and so and luckily. But by the luck of God that we were able to get Marcelo Alonso, right, who was the champion factory, the Carlson Gracie jiu-jitsu team trainer or team coach, right, team coach. So we were just off the the bat very lucky to even have him, and learning those techniques and learning the nuances was just such a mind blower. It was beautiful to know not just the armbar, but the variations of the armbars, the high level variations of the armbars, the triangle, the omoplata, right, all the different transitions and the passes and stuff like that. And it was great to see that growth. It was just like, woo, it was just like a mushroom of how, and it was very conducive to wrestling. Right. You know what I mean? So I mean, I just loved it. You know what I mean? I couldn't get enough. And you guys are very lucky that you are able to in one click see every single jiu-jitsu move. Right. Yeah. From every gym or every country and every person. Forever, yeah. Ever, right? Since jiu-jitsu began, and you can see years of it. So we were, we didn't have that. We would like literally like record or have like VHS tapes, and we would like pass them around to each other, right? And like, oh my God, this is what I got, the Mujal from 1995. Oh, right. So, and we'd exchange those, you know what I mean, and cherish them. But it was, the lifestyle of jiu-jitsu is wonderful. It's beautiful, you know what I mean? And also you have that knowledge base that you can take it and go somewhere else. Right? And you'll always have doors open, or hopefully, right? Most likely you will have doors open to you if you know what I mean, if you go into a place and want to roll. Yeah,
and for the most part, when you travel, most people are very welcoming, especially nowadays with jiu-jitsu. Hey, come train, and it's an instant connection and connection to community, friends and family. So, no, I love that. And so, at this stage in your life, or at the beginning, wherever you want to choose from, and I won't phrase it just as jiu-jitsu because you were, a UFC fighter for a while. What does martial arts mean to you?
Well, it means so many things. It's not one thing. It has so many layers to it. What it is to me now is a community, right? Because I'm an instructor. I'm no longer just a player or a competitor, right? So to me, it's a community, and I'm seeing development of growth of young men like you that were kids when they came in and now are men. Right, and so and my thing is that what I love to see is that growth, right? That you guys were disciplined enough to come here, right after work, day in, day out, an hour and a half, in a puddle of sweat, rolling and grappling and doing the techniques and the high level techniques. And then, seeing that you guys, whatever, let it be a trade school, let it be a university or a career, and you've seen, the beauty of it is that I'm seeing young guys that are now, have married and have kids and, have careers and are just, they're blossoming as strong young men. Cool. No,
that's amazing. So, and you kind of touched on it. I came in here for the first time at 16 years old. The summer between my junior and senior year in high school, I walked in for the first time, trained 3 months, and then I did what most teenagers do. I partied for a few more years and thought to myself, I should probably get back to that. I'm getting beat up every now and then. But to me,
part of my goal for this content and putting this out there, right? You saw me as a young kid coming in, but as a coach, well, again, my goal being to try and get people to start jiu-jitsu. You know, there's so much jiu-jitsu content out there for jiu-jitsu people, but what can draw people into jiu-jitsu? So as a coach, from your perspective, what does it take for a man or woman to walk in the gym for the first time to try jiu-jitsu or martial arts, being here, you know, striking? You know, sometimes it may be an intimidating environment, or from the outside windows, you know, people don't know what they get. So do you remember your perspective, or how would you suggest someone who's never trained before to walk through the doors for the first time?
Man, it all depends on the person, man. That's the one thing. And as far as me as a business, there's variations to this, because my attraction was, I wanted the high caliber rollers, man. I just wanted beasts, right? I just wanted to sharpen my iron and have a crew of freaking killers around me that, you know, we just trained hard. Is that conducive? No, like it's not conducive to the smaller dude that's just trying it out. He wants to try it out. He doesn't know much, and if he sees a room full of fucking killers and then he gets trounced by them, that's not a good experience. He's not going to want to come back, and that's what you don't want to have. A young female that comes in here and smells a bunch of, you know, hot sweaty dudes all, you know, grunting and subbing each other all hard and stuff like that. She's not gonna like it. It's not like, oh my God, I want to do that. No, it's very, you know what I mean. So I think that as far as jiu-jitsu itself, it is using different levels of introduction, right? So introductory classes, right? Making sure that they have a base of knowledge prior to understanding that you have to gauge, right, according to experience level, age, gender. There's a lot of variability, strength, right? So you have to also teach your community that, you know what I mean, even if it's a room full of killers, that they have to gauge. And there is a difference between the guys that you're sharpening your iron with versus the person that's coming in here to learn and to start getting that road to that path of jiu-jitsu, right? Can they be killers? Maybe someday. And hopefully that this martial arts will, in many ways, you know, allow, if they need to defend themselves with it, that they have the knowledge base that it could, right? But really it's for them to get in shape, to relieve stress, right? To have a routine, to get a community, things of that nature.
I love that. So along that line, has there been anything recently or at any time that stuck out in your mind from someone who's come in the gym for the first time or as a beginner, and to say, hey, here's why I started, like, and this is why I'm continuing to train?
Oh man, yeah. There's so many things. Like, I mean, there's so many reasons why people would come and train and do jiu-jitsu, right? And so I'm very fortunate that I'm right here in the South Lake Union area of Western Washington, and I'm in the middle of Amazon campus. So I mean, I got nerds everywhere. They're just like Nerdville, right? So I got these highly educated kids, right? That they spend, 10, 11, 12 hours a day in front of a computer, right? Most of them have never been athletic, like ever. You know what I mean?
Never thrown a rock before.
Never, never gotten in a fight. Which when I first, they've never gotten in a fight, which was like, I was like, what? Never gotten in a fight, right? So to introduce them to this, because of what they do is they walk by and they're like, they see jiu-jitsu and they're like, oh, I would like to try that. I've seen a few UFCs, or all right. And so when they come in all kind of like, weak and not very confident, and shoulders, kind of slunched over. And then, little by little, you start giving them technique, and they start working out with it. They might clean up their diet. They might start drinking more water, right? And then all of a sudden, 3 months pass by, and they're starting to learn it. Because where I'm at least, is that a lot of these guys are really smart.
Right.
So the step-by-step technical part of it, they're soaking in it. Not just taking it, they're soaking it. They're
very interesting.
They're very smart, right? But my thing is, like, in between is to develop their shoulders and their hips, and they're like, oh my God, I haven't seen these ever, right? And their legs,
athletes,
exactly, and their legs and the coordination, right, and being able to roll.
Yep.
And so that is, I think, a beauty, and to see that transition. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I see them, a year and a half, 2 years, they're high level blue belts. which is there's always that danger of that high level blue belt, right? So, and that's what they've become, and they're athletic. They also train other things to strengthen or make them more flexible or getting more endurance. For jiu-jitsu. So they're training outside of it to become better jiu-jitsu players, and also they're highly technical. And a lot of these guys do homework, so they watch. Right, they watch the matches. They watch technique from everywhere.
Right, so they're applying that same maybe study habits they had to get into those tech positions that are around us to jiu-jitsu, and it's only helping their jiu-jitsu.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you are an intellectual, if you've never been super athletic before, it's a great point to point out. Like, hey, jiu-jitsu is for you. It's for everyone. And it can be for everyone. Right.
If you put the right frame of mind, and that's that's why I think a lot of these guys in the neighborhood that work for Facebook or Amazon or Apple or at Microsoft, Google, that's literally right here in the neighborhood. Once they start breaking it down intellectually, they gravitate to that, right? They love that, you know what I mean? And then it just does itself. All you have to do is implement. I have to walk into the gym, every day and put my hour and a half in, and it does itself if you put that effort in, right?
No, that's great. That's great. So as a coach, you have people in here. You're probably not rolling all the time anymore. What is something that you're seeing that you in jiu-jitsu, right? Something you like, right? What's the good aspect of jiu-jitsu that maybe your students are doing nowadays? Whether it's moves, submissions, and attitude. What's something positive you're seeing on the mat, and what's something negative that people should attempt to avoid themselves? Maybe the good and bad of the outside perspective. Because while we're rolling, we're not seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that there is a much higher level of technique because you're literally inundated with technique from everywhere.
You're right.
Literally, like from everywhere, from all these different gyms and the variations of them. So that in itself is such a plus. It's incredible. On the other side, it's not so much a negative side of it, but what I'm not seeing is that killer instinct that I used to see a few years ago.
Okay.
Right? We're talking about like these, because if you wanted to be a fighter, you definitely had to have a certain character to be a fighter back in the day.
Right.
Right? And so not that we trained correctly, because I will tell you right now, in comparison, we did a lot of stupid shit that we shouldn't have done.
Can you share some of them with us?
Yeah, it's just like overtraining.
Okay.
The overtraining, the going out in these gym wars, right?
Where everything was a death round.
Correct, and you'd be subbing, motherfucker, twisting their, right, popping elbows, right, wrenching on shoulders, choking people out, right? And so now, even though that instinct to be that competitive killer is nice to see, right? I don't see it as much nowadays, but that's okay, right? That's not. I think it also, you have to look at it as a culture, right? Is the culture bringing that out? Not really, right? So right now we have to kind of like work within the boundaries of what culture is allowing us to have.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm not getting these badass killers that just want to be fucking fighters.
Right.
But I'm getting really intellectual dudes that are picking up technique well, and that within a few years they will themselves to be athletes, right? Through intellect.
Cool.
So they're lifting, right? Because they have a sheet of like, how do I get my chest stronger or bigger? And they're like, okay, I got to lift this, and right on point.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, I like that. Which turn that into direction, right? Some people, they come in completely new, fresh on the mats. What is something that people should be focusing on jiu-jitsu wise? Is there a move you're like seeing, an attitude towards jiu-jitsu, and maybe submission wise beginners should be focusing on, something along those lines?
Well, the first one is to relax, right? Because I think a lot of people that come in their first day here, they're already super nervous, right? And so, and for a few days through is that they're going to be nervous. And that they need to relax, and they need to understand that this is a process, and they're not going to learn everything in one day, not even close, right? The moment you switch that over, the easier it's going to get. Relax, right? know that you're not going to learn everything in one day, and then also have a book and start collecting these techniques, and whatever you learn, write it down in your own language. Right, so you just write it, put left foot here, right foot there, turn, pivot, blah blah blah, in your own language, whatever the teacher taught you. Right, you write it, you read it, you practice it, right, as much as you can within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Right, all of a sudden you're gonna start getting a little menu of the techniques.
Right,
and that's my suggestions. And that's the one thing that I hope that beginner students get. Kick back, relax, enjoy the ride. You ain't gonna learn shit, you know what I mean? All of it, and I should say, you won't learn all of it in one day, and that you will chip away at this, right? Every day, and every day is an experience to enjoy the everyday.
Cool.
You know?
I love that, and that's such a great point too. The relax, the attitude saying, "Hey, it's okay, we're chilling." But then even once you're on the mats, hey, take a deep breath. The white belt squeeze, we all know it.
The grips.
No, it's okay. Just take a deep breath. And I'm sure they'll have upper belts reminding them, hey, take a deep breath. No, it's all good. So at this stage of your life, what is your game, and why is it your game in jiu-jitsu?
My game?
Yeah, your game. What are you submission hunting? What are you doing? On the mat?
Listen, I am just blessed at this age and at this time in my life to even be on the mats.
Right.
So I have a ton of injuries from being like high level competition, and so my thing is to just be able to be on the mats.
Okay.
Right. So if we want to get really specific about it, it's basically like 2 days a week I do wrestling, 2 days a week I do grappling.
Cool.
Right. So that's what I want to maintain, and in between I do a little bit of conditioning that allows me to have flexible and strong shoulders, flexible and strong hips, right? But I don't go too crazy, right? Because the main thing is that I want is that my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu, right, allow me to get in shape.
Cool.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep,
so if I
absolutely.
overdo it in lifting, I won't be there enough for the wrestling or the grappling. Right. If I go too crazy with the grappling and the wrestling, also, I might get hurt. Right. And I don't have time, and I don't recover as fast. Right. So I got to do it just right. So it complements, and I have whatever 3, 5, 6, 10 more years of this. Right. And that's what I want to be on the mats.
Cool.
I like being on the mats. Right. I want to wrestle. Absolutely. I love it. So I want to keep being here.
Cool. So, but specifically, right? You're on the mats. You slapped and bumped already. What are you doing? What is your goal for your opponent, typically?
It depends on who I'm with. I like top position, obviously, right? I want to put my belly on them, right? So, for me, I think that being able to either get the takedown or the sweep, right, and start working top position, right? If I'm in guard, breaking and passing aggressively, because I like that smash and pass style, right? I enjoy it. I was like, it is a situation that I think that everybody should have. Somebody gets put in guard, that you're able to break it and pass it, right? And you have many techniques for it. Likewise, being on top, being able to be patient, being able to have position control, right? If you're in guard, be aggressive with it, right? You're looking not only to sub but to sweep. Right. So and it just comes down to like fundamentals, keeping it fundamental in that way. It's very hard for me now to rubber guard it or do do different inverse my hips and my back.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Right
So it's certain techniques you have to be careful on at 51 versus what I used to be able to do. So knowing my limits is a key component.
Cool.
Right? Knowing those limits, then working within those parameters of what I can do. Also, don't be proud. Tap fast. Right? Tap fast, and live to grapple another day. Live to jits another day, because that's what you don't want. You don't want to spend 2 weeks, a month away from the mats.
My ego has gotten the best of me in the past, for sure.
Tap fast.
Yep, didn't tap fast enough, or thought I could get out, or didn't think I could get out, but then my ego said, "Well, just see how much pain you can take." So tap fast, tap often, for sure. So those days where you were working in the laboratory of jiu-jitsu, you're on the mat with your friends, right? Because you trained with some high-level guys for a long time. When was the last maybe Eureka moment that you had in jiu-jitsu of like, wow, no one that's maybe necessarily showed this to me and I maybe just discovered this? Did you ever have one of those? Maybe a grip or a move or just something that came to you?
Man, we were just very playful, right? So being in that playful state, a lot of us just invented stuff out of just like, from just having high technique jiu-jitsu and pro wrestling, or we'd have a mixture of certain moves, and so we were very playful in that aspect, and also because of the transition to MMA, right? So we looked at certain positions to control, so we were able to sub and ground and pound, right? So so like the crucifix and all these different the variations of like hold positions, right? Pinning positions, as well as.
There we go. Before we were so rudely interrupted by
a hot camera.
A hot camera. So you were in the laboratory just inventing shit, just having a good time, being playful. Was there anything at the time that was like, yeah, this stands out of like, oh yeah, I discovered this? Topside crucifix being maybe one of them, or was that one someone had shown to you?
No, the crucifix is ancient. Right,
Okay.
it's literally like ancient. It's not. Those are they are pinning combinations that have been used forever and ever and ever. The figure four body lock was really like a silly pro wrestling move that we used. We were just like playing around with.
Like if you have the back already, figure four body.
Correct.
Lock. Okay.
So like we would mess around, and we had like one of the guys just jump your back, right, and figure four you, right, and so he could ride you for a long time on that figure four. And so, if you get the seatbelt on it, or else you get the chin, and you extend it, right, you can get a good sub on it, on your back. And we're like, you got me. But we didn't think of anything of it. We thought of it like, like the Boston Crab or the full Nelson or something like that, right? They're moves, but they're not. You don't see very often the submissions off the Boston Crab or off of full Nelsons or in pro wrestling moves, right?
Right.
So, for me, the figure four body lock was that. I got it. I was able to use it, and I won a fight from it in the UFC. So it did work, and I was like, oh wow, certain things that we've just been playful with, it can transition over to, a submission, and also like really like being able to at that time to get submissions. Submissions and get it well, right? So being able to have a triangle that was badass or an armbar that was badass, get kimuras from every direction, right? And so and then all of a sudden you start seeing the variations of like, oh, I can get it from here, right? And so seeing those variations appear to you throughout the years, right? Where you didn't have to work too hard, but you just off of, oh, they do this, I can do this. If they do this, I can do this, right?
Gotcha, okay.
And then all of a sudden you start getting the gamut of ranges of different arm bars, triangles, omoplatas, or whatever it may be.
Right, cool. No, that's wonderful. And that's such a fun thing, again, for people who are just, who I'm trying to pull into jiu-jitsu is, once you get on the mat, you start to understand it, that playfulness. You're sitting there with your friends, say, hey, I'm going to meet you on a Sunday. Let's go in there. Let's just play. Let's see what happens. I've been struggling with this move. What's a good defense or offense from it? The counter to the counter to the counter,
Correct.
If you can't find it on YouTube. Because if you know the name of it, you may be able to find something out there, which is fun.
And I mean, like, to me, like, the one guy that I told you was, like, an innovator, you know what I mean? That was, like, Eddie Bravo. And to me, I was like, when people like, or especially the Brazilians, they were clowning him for a bit. They were like, oh, it's just a high guard. But in his very own way, he invented or at the very least elaborated really well this high guard. Obviously because he was genetically blessed to be very flexible. But then from there, with all these original names, he was able to break it down. Right, and the beauty about him is that he was able to just give it, and then it came back tenfold. Right, and that is an important situation a lot with the people that you train, is that you are able to give them a technique, especially if it's original or if it's a strong base for the club. Right, that all of a sudden if you give it and they go out and play with it. And all of a sudden, coach, I got this variation. What about this? What about this? Right? And all of a sudden, oh shit! Right? It's like almost like an investment. You know what I mean? And so, and he did that with a few different moves, right? So the rubber guard, the lockdown series,
Yep.
right? The twister, right? So, and it was just amazing because the twister was really like the wrestler's guillotine.
Right.
Right, it was a pinning combination.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you can see it how it started from ancient statues, Greek wrestling statues.
Yeah.
Right, so you have the leg ride and you have the arm, and that's the beginning of the twister. Right, right?
That's true. I never thought about that, but now that's popping in my head. That's
and then obviously the banana splits. And we had a lot of that, and jiu-jitsu even more so. Right, when all of a sudden when all of a sudden, like for me, like when they started doing berimbolo, right, de la Hivas, right, and all those things is like just little tweaks and turns, inverse de la Hiva, right, and all of a sudden people just started elaborate X guard, right, single X, deep half, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just started opening and opening and opening, and it's beautiful to see that throughout decades that it became, so involved in so many variations,
Yep.
and so many different players. Have strong suits and styles that are amazing.
Right. And that's one of my favorite things about jiu-jitsu is it's literally never ending. There's a counter to a counter and someone invents something and that's a new counter. I mean, this process you just described, I'm seeing it happen in real time on YouTube and the big competitions, the ADCCs, the Worlds, the IBJJF circuit. You see this jiu-jitsu that's always exploding and inventing, so that's such a fun process.
And it goes in reverse. Right, so for older gents like me, like we also start realizing, I can't do this. Therefore, I need to do this type of style, or I have to start being careful about my back, or my knees, or my hips, or my neck, or whatever the heck it may be.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you start changing your style to becoming a little bit more conservative, right, or be more dominant in other places, right. So it goes in reverse. If especially if you stay on these mats long enough.
Well, then that's a great point. So let's say someone wants to walk through that door, but maybe they don't have the best knee in the world, or a shoulder, or a wrist. Something that's tweaked where they may be afraid to walk through the gym. Can people still train through those things or find a style that works for them? How would you communicate that to those people?
Of course, it all depends on how damaged that area is, right? So I can't tell you like yes, and because it wouldn't be true.
Right.
You have to look at how damaged your knee or whatever problem area that you have. But then can you? Yes, a lot of people have to, when they have injuries, they have to work around it.
Right.
Right. So you work and start controlling. Right, in different ways. You start subbing in different ways. You start, playing in different ways, right? And you should.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of jiu-jitsu. Is like if you don't find it one way, you got to go the other way.
Yeah.
Right.
That's such a fun process.
Yeah,
for sure.
and you have to find that out. Now, also, meanwhile, you still have to work at that problem area. So if you have weak knees, you have to strengthen your knees. If you have bad shoulders, you have to make them, stronger or more flexible, or whatever the issue is. You have to work. You have to work with it. So it's self-reflection, right? And really like sit down and not ignore. The issues. If you want to get better, right? If you want to still do good and be better, you have to transition to a different technique at the same time as rehabbing or taking care of whatever is ailing you. Right.
No, and that's a great point because I know I've been injured, unfortunately, too many times throughout the years. But there's that tipping point where, I come back to the mats, well, I can't do the same style I've been doing, when I most recently tore my pec muscle. Coming back, I was like, wow, a lot of my subs were very choke heavy. Darces, RNCs, guillotines. Well, both my arms, everything got a little bit weaker. I don't have the same squeeze that I had 6 months ago as I'm working through that. So I had to play my game, open up, use my legs more, do more mounted arm bars and certain things where I could engage my legs to attack different submissions. So in a sense, it opened my mind up to work through other things and play the game of jiu-jitsu just a little bit more. So that's been fun.
And in many ways, like for me, it's using my weight or waiting it out for the later part of the round, right? So if we're doing 5-minute rounds, I'm not going to do everything in my first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? I'm going to wait it out a little. I'm going to play it out a little bit. I'm going to put my weight on you. I'm going to tire you out. I'm going to bother you a little bit, and then I'm going to find little by little start working the submission. And likewise, if somebody's on top of me, I have to survive it.
Right.
So, and a lot of times surviving is winning for guys like me. Right? So if I'm able to survive a 280-pound monster that's on top of me trying to, choke me or sub me, right? If I survive him, if I can keep him in my guard, if I can transition from guard to guard to guard and survive it, that's a win for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many 280-pound monsters we have in here, but
Gabriel.
Yeah, maybe just one.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Xavier.
Yeah. Well, but that's
Dexter.
To that point. Okay, we got a few. They're great guys. Also, that is a point of contention at times. People may have with themselves, hey, not wanting to start jiu-jitsu because maybe they're a little bit overweight, or that fear of wanting to walk in and not being in shape. Well, starting jiu-jitsu is one, how you're going to get in shape, but I also tell the students I've coached over the years, if you're a small, fast guy, use your speed and agility. If you're the big, heavy guy, use that physical attribute to your advantage, and learn to perfect that. People always try to tell you, stay away from using your weight if you have it. Well, no, learn to perfect it. Obviously, you want to be a good training partner and calibrate how you roll with that individual. But if you're friends and you slap, bump, and roll, use what you got. So if you are nervous to start jiu-jitsu for that reason, come into a jiu-jitsu school. It's very welcoming for that. So this one's out of left field. Best advice to blue belt, right? Blue belt blues, people have been training 2 years. They start to trickle away. What's some good advice for a blue belt?
For me, it's really up to the blue belt. If the blue belt wants it, he likes this, and he wants to go on, you just got to stick by it. You do whatever you have to do to stay here. If you like the crew of people that you're with, stay here. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe you're not connecting with the people that you're with. Maybe you have to look at another school, but still do jiu-jitsu. Right? Another one also is start looking at techniques. Right? Start really elaborating a different style. Okay, I'm tired of being just a guard guy. I'm gonna play this style, right? I'm gonna start doing judo so I can get the takedown. Right, so you might have to play a little bit, right, to give it a little bit more fervor into your motivation.
Gotcha. No, that's a great point. Yeah.
So because once if you're 3-4 stripe blue belt, I don't know what to tell you. You're rolling, right? You're rolling, and from there it's a matter of you keeping it up, keeping the motivation, keeping the routine. Now, it's really just like, I'm gonna go to work. And then after work, I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu, right? I'm going to do my jiu-jitsu, I'm going to shower, and I'm going to go, meet up with the wife and the kids, have dinner, rinse and repeat. Yep. Right? Absolutely. And that's really what you want. You want to enjoy that routine. Gotcha. Right? So keeping the crew that you have, friendly, having your buddies be part of your jiu-jitsu crew.
Building community, I mean, that's why I've been here for 10 years and why you talk to people who train jiu-jitsu for a long time, why they stuck with it, because I realized I don't have many friends outside of the jiu-jitsu community because it transcends so many different aspects of life, right? The type of people who step on the mat are from all walks of life. And so that's been a really cool aspect that someone who's starting jiu-jitsu can take away from that. Like if you're having issues finding a community, especially in this last couple of years in the States, in the world of lockdowns and uncertainty, jiu-jitsu can be a sense of community for you if you haven't had that prior.
Absolutely. It did it this lockdown. Right? So, disclaimer, when there was the hard lockdown, we weren't locked down. We weren't locked down. And, we created that atmosphere because we needed it in our lives. We wanted to grapple. We wanted to do jiu-jitsu. And we had a crew of fellas that we would sneak in here, right? We would get we'd block all the windows, we'd open the doors, we'd get in, and we'd go to do our jiu-jitsu, and that literally saved our lives.
Absolutely.
Right? So for all this tension and stress and anxiety that the world is bringing upon us, right? Jiu-jitsu alleviates that from us, right? Because we're able to purge it, we're able to sweat it out, we're able to relieve that stress and anxiety on each other, right? And at the end, we became closer because we had that camaraderie, we had that fraternal togetherness, to be able to every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, be able to come in here, right, at a certain time and do what we love to do, right? Even if we were told not to.
For sure.
Fuck them.
I mean, it's jiu-jitsu is good for the soul, right? Absolutely. I mean, and that being the theme of this channel, good for the soul. I've wholeheartedly believe it, and that's why I'm trying to draw people in. Lastly, again, throwing a curveball here. Outside of jiu-jitsu, what else do you do that's good for the soul?
Man, I mean, my life is surrounded by this. So, like, everything's really pretty much involving, you know, this gym and jiu-jitsu because it is, right? So, you know, having my sons in here, having Ivan participate, you know what I mean, having Christian participate, having, right, you know, my wife in the business with me, right, just doing doing the books. So it's like everything's involved here, but
it doesn't have to be a big thing, a little thing. What's something you enjoy outside of that's not directly on the mats here today? You know.
Nothing.
That's a good answer. That's how awesome jiu-jitsu is.
It is my life. It is what it is. I you know what I mean, I'm 51 years old. I'm not gonna go out there and start racing cars or fucking you know building out vehicles or whatever. I don't. You know what I mean. You know, even at most that, you know, I go out shooting or I do other stuff, I do it with friends from here. Right. So, you know, everything I do, you know, with the community that has been built.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
No, that's wonderful. Well, yeah, I guess closing thoughts. I just, again, want to say thank you for many years of training, being my coach, being like a father figure to me, and giving me 10 years of friggin', you know, camaraderie and coaching on this mat. It's been wonderful. So we're in the Seattle area, South Lake Union. For those who want to try jiu-jitsu for the first time, what's the first step to get them here? Well, what do they do? Do they call, the email show? What's the first step?
Google, right? You Google Ivan Salaverry MMA, and you know, we're gonna be here. You know, mainly the late evenings. We have an early morning. We have a schedule. You can look up the schedule as well. But just get in here. Get in here. Step in here. If you're coming out of town and you're spending a few days in the city, step in here. Get your rolls in, right? If you're you know, you moved over here to work, get in here. Get that routine going. You know what I mean? Come in and roll.
Awesome. Well, I believe on Instagram it's Ivan Salaverry MMA. I'll put in the show notes the website, the email, the gym phone number, the Instagram, and all that stuff, and Facebook page for you guys, so we can try and get people to start down the path that we love so much. Love you, Ivan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I love you.
Get out there and train, guys.
Later.